Somebody's getting rich off the fact that you think you're behind. Not metaphorically, literally. There's a person right now with a course and a rented Lambo whose entire business model depends on you lying awake convinced your 20s are going to be a failure if you don't act now. This is a video about the fear of wasting your 20s, where it came from, who's profiting off of it, and the one thing that actually wastes your 20s, which is probably not what you think it is. And I promise this isn't going to be one of those just believe in yourself videos, because honestly, those are part of the problem too. The main point of this video is the fear of wasting your 20s is not a real threat. It's a business model. It's a product engineered, marketed, and sold back to you by the people who need you scared enough to buy the fix. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly who's profiting off your 2 a.m. spiral and why the everyone's ahead of me feeling is basically just a magic trick. And the one thing that actually does waste your 20s, like I said earlier. So stick around because this is a topic that I haven't seen many other people cover on YouTube so far. And before we get into all of this, let's rewind really quickly to understand why someone would be panicking about wasting their 20s in the first place. We need to understand what that panic is, and to understand it, historically speaking, it's a new invention, like 20th century new. Your grandparents did not have a wasting my 20s arc. At 22, your grandpa was already married, employed at the factory he'd die at, and his biggest personal achievement was keeping the same fridge in his garage for probably 40 years. I'm joking. I'm sure your parents did more than that, but you get my point that I'm making here, right? Life was pretty simple back then, and there was no getting rich era for young people. Probably because everything was much more affordable then compared to today. Housing used to cost like 2 times the average salary then. Now in most cities, it's closer to like 6 or 8 times. So it's not just like the life script disappeared, the actual math to like working jobs just stopped working altogether. And in the recent decades, the usual jobs stopped paying as much, and college was the new trend to do after high school instead of the workforce. And this also came with a new wave of like, you can be anything energy, which I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like there's a whole lot of freedom going around. Except this new college freedom with zero structure, it didn't really feel like freedom for a bunch of young adults. It feels like being handed a blank sheet of paper called your entire life, and it just has no directions on it or what to do. And there's no one there to really guide you to tell you where to go or who to talk to or, anything of that sort. And the worst part, social media handed you a live 24/7 high definition broadcast of 8 billion other people's blank pieces of paper, and theirs look a hell of a lot more colorful than mine. You combine that total freedom with a total view of everyone else's progress, and you get exactly what's happening to you right now. A nervous system reacting completely correctly to an insane environment. You're not broken, you're not behind, you're just in a rigged, fucked ass carnival game. But here's where it gets worse. Because that panic you're feeling, somebody built an entire economy on top of it. And that's where the shit just genuinely gets unhinged for me. There's this wasting your 20s industrial complex, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. There's this full ecosystem of planners, courses, and 5 a.m. routines that requires you to be scared for them to work. Think about the business model for a second. If there's a regular 24-year-old who thinks, I got time, I'm figuring out life, and doesn't buy the $200 workout course, that guy's fine. He's useless to the algorithm. But a terrified 24-year-old guy who genuinely believes if he doesn't act right now, that they will be behind for the rest of their life is in fact what they would call a whale. And the genius of it, the truly diabolical part, is that it never presents itself as fear. It's dressed up as motivation. It's just wanting more for myself. It's the I don't believe in settling cool reframe that you always see on TikTok with these like motivation, but it has the same underlying panic. You think the fear is coming from out there, from other people, the algorithm, the guy on your screen. It's not. This fear is manufactured in your head. And there's a theory that these course creators rely on to do that. That theory is the social comparison theory. It was developed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. The theory explains that people evaluate themselves by comparing themselves to others. And on social media, this becomes way more distorted because we're only seeing curated highlights rather than the full reality of someone's life. You're comparing your full, unfiltered, behind-the-scenes internal experience against other people's highlight reel. That's not a fair fight. Of course you're losing. You showed up with your own raw footage. And here's the actual scam part. Every I built a 7-figure business at 26 video conveniently skips the boring 2 to 4 years before it that it took to build up that business. Dude probably started at 19, failed twice, and then worked a job to attempt to fund attempt number 3. I just worded that really weird. What the hell? But he posted it. It finally worked. You didn't see his 20s. You just saw the highlights of it. So what's it like for the actual average 20-year-old? Find out. I looked at 20-year-olds overall net worth. The Federal Reserve tracks this number every 3 years, and the numbers are almost kind of funny. Typical American household, which typically refers to 2 people, at 20 to 24 has a net worth of about 11 grand. 1/6 of them have college debt. 25 to 29, that's up to about 30,000. That's the actual median, not the guy in your feed, the middle. Half of everyone your age has less than that, and half of everyone in your age has above that. That's dead center. And once you get to like the 30 to 34 range, it jumps up to like 90,000. That's because of like retirement accounts finally kicking in. Your salary is probably a bit higher, and then you probably are starting to own a home and building some equity in it, et cetera, et cetera. So once you get to that, it starts to jump up a little bit quicker. But in your 20s, It's really not that much. So if you're 24 sitting on a negative net worth because of student loans, congratulations, you are statistically extremely normal. You are not behind schedule. There is no schedule. Fuck it. There is no schedule. The schedule is a marketing funnel wearing a really convincing I care about you potential costume. There is no schedule. And this is where it flips because the fear isn't real and the schedule isn't real. Then what actually is wasting your 20s like I've been talking about for this whole video? Because there is something there. There clearly is something that will be wasting your 20s. You're not imagining anything. So what's the real threat? And if it's not the thing that everyone else is telling you it is, what actually is it? It's spending all of them anxious about wasting them. That's the whole con. The fear is wasted time. You get one shot at your specific, weird, once in a lifetime early adulthood, and instead of living through it and experiencing new things and breaking out of your shell to ultimately become who you want to be, you're spending it planning about your own potential instead of doing what is needed to be done to reach it. You are narrating your life instead of having it. Zoom out for a second and look at what this means to the internet culture as a whole, because this just isn't a you problem. The people who actually look back at their 20s and feel good rarely optimize every second of it. They mostly just did shit. Bad jobs, weird relationships, trips they probably couldn't even afford, and nights that led absolutely nowhere, but they could tell you a hell of a story about it. Nobody builds a personality from a spreadsheet. I'm sorry, it's never happened once in ever. Never. Fucking ever. So in other words, just live your life with experiences and just don't over optimize the shit out of it. Here's a non-viral truth. You cannot waste your 20s because there was never a version where you win. There's no trophy at 30 for saying you did it correctly. There's just you either having lived through your 20s a little messy and actually present for it, experiencing things, or having spent all of it white knuckling a deadline you invented yourself, trying to push yourself to the absolute maximum. You're not behind schedule. There is no schedule. There's just a bunch of exhausted 24-year-olds convinced everyone else got a syllabus with some sort of instructions on it, and you didn't. If this helped, subscribe. If not, I don't know what to say. I hope it did. I don't know. I just like making videos. I like talking. I like playing zombies. But if you guys could leave a like on this video, I know it's a bit of a shorter one. I just didn't know how much farther to go into depth with it, but I enjoyed making this. And if you guys did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.
Hello, galera!